when you're playing a sport or when you're taking a leadership role or when you're doing something like a change agent where there might be more arrows aimed at your back, that you realize the most important person to believe in you is yourself.
Welcome to Unexpected Journey Season 2. I'm your host, Ann Bibb. Welcome Amy Horner to the show today. Amy is founder and principal consultant of True9 Business Consulting, advocating for change management and motivated by the firm belief that people can find joy by embracing change. She is a true change enthusiast, keynote speaker, and podcast co-host of DBA Chronicles. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below. Now let's get started. Welcome, Amy. How are you?
I am fabulous. Anne, how are you today?
Oh, hanging in there. I got a little flower over here sticking out in the corner. So, actually it's not a flower. It's just the end. I'm doing some redecorating.
Floral.
It's floral. So there we go. You know what? There we go. But you know what? I've been doing this show for a while. People know that I just do what I do. So here we are. And we've been talking about you being on the show for a while. We keep rescheduling and coming back because you and I both have such busy, crazy, wild lives. Mm-hmm. But here we are. We finally made it to the same place at the same time.
I love it. And wild in an appropriate fashion, just in case anyone in my family is listening.
I can't say the same. My family is well aware of that with me. So there it is. So you have been incredibly busy lately. Aside from school and speaking, and I think there was like even a book going on at some point, or a newsletter and a book and a launch. Oh my gosh, Amy, do you know how to sit still?
No. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually not sitting right now. So that's your case in point, right? I'm at my standing desk and I'm not good at sitting. I'm not good at sitting still.
No. So congratulations, by the way, on the launch of True9.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited about it. And I'm sure you noticed I launched on the 9th because I'm an athlete and we're superstitious, and we appreciate, I think, most of us, that people think we're a little crazy for being superstitious. It does not stop us.
No. And as a fellow serial entrepreneur, I am mad respect it, because you have these things and your mind is going in all of these places, and you just have to keep going. You just have to keep moving. Mm-hmm. So let's talk to everybody about let's start with True9.
Sure.
Where did it come from? Where is it going? What is it about?
Absolutely. Before, I guess maybe starting at the beginning. So before launching True9, and really for the last 15 years leading up to it, I have been hired full-time by organizations to lead their strategic planning, strategic change, and to put them in a place where they felt more comfortably prepared for either growth or some sort of organizational transformation, either revenue, new revenue streams, diversification of revenue, expanded market share, different service offerings. And I really enjoy it. However, I felt I would be more fulfilled if I could work with more people at the same time, instead of working with just a single organization. And so it's really where True9 came from. It's a strategy consulting firm. It's led by me. I'm the principal consultant, so I'm involved in all of the work. And it's all about helping people find their love of change and their willingness to embrace change and their creative, innovative mindset, and helping them move from where they are today into a more successful future.
Love of change. Mm-hmm. I tell my kids all the time, the only constant in life is change. Mm-hmm. And so helping people find the love of change.
Yeah. And people who feel negatively about change, if it's the one constant, then you're constantly feeling negative, and that doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And I also, one of my kids is a Swiftie and was born on the 13th. And so is very much like the 13 is their favorite number. I
Mhm.
love that you have the favorite number 9.
Mhm.
And I love that you embraced that and put that into your company name. And just so that everybody knows, I'm going to toss it out there because I'm an Amy fan. This was actually your jersey number when you were a soccer player, wasn't it?
Yes, so I wore the number 9 or some variation thereof. Sometimes I had to be 19 or 29. Jersey numbers sometimes come in different sizes. So, but there was always a variation of the number 9 on my back, and mostly number 9. And a true 9 is a soccer term, and the person on the field who is the true 9 is the person who's most responsible for the focus on the goal, and particularly scoring goals. They're usually the top goal scorer, but if they aren't in a position where they can score goals, it's their responsibility to collaborate with their teammates and make sure that the ball gets in the back of the net. And when you're leading strategy, you are responsible for collaborating with others to really advance the ball, and make sure that you're aiming for that goal, the ultimate goal.
And look at how it came together with the company that you are now, focused on goals and strategizing and
Mhm.
collaborating. It is just beautiful how it all came back together, and you've essentially been true 9
Yep.
throughout. I,
Mhm. I told you, superstitious.
absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to take it back even further, knowing that you have been true 9 from college through your career, and now you have a company, True 9. How did that happen? I mean, did you have a love of soccer when you were younger and just kind of fell into it, or did somebody see this in you and identify it? What happened here?
I started playing soccer in elementary school. I am a beneficiary of Title IX. So Title IX, of course, passed in the early 70s and really took root in the late 70s and early 80s, getting a lot of young girls involved in sports where it maybe hadn't been a good pathway for us to be involved in athletics before Title IX. And that sweeping increase in young ladies and young girls playing sports not only increased numbers in existing sports like cheerleading and basketball and volleyball, but also got us involved in some of the tougher sports, soccer, rugby, and lacrosse, some of the more physically violent, I suppose, sports.
The
And
fun ones, basically, the
the
fun ones.
fun ones, the ones where you got to get really muddy and dirty. And as soon as girls in my age group were able to be registered for soccer, my father signed me up. And I remember I had zero idea what it was the first day I set foot on a soccer field. People were asking if I had the specific equipment that you need to play soccer, and I had no idea what they were talking about. And very quickly, obviously, took to it. It turns out I'm left-footed, which is much like in baseball when the pitcher is left-handed. That's a unique skill, a unique capability. And so I spend a lot of my time on the left side of the field, which is funny now as an adult. Like when I'm running or when I'm walking, you will find me very often on the left side of the lane, which in America is the wrong side of the road. Um, so it's still, you don't break habits very easily, I guess.
So, from that perspective, and I'm thinking of all the little girls
Mhm.
or little NBs out there,
Mhm.
that coach or that individual who saw in you that characteristic of somebody that is good with strategy, somebody that's a good leader, somebody that helps the team collaborate. Who saw that in you?
I mean, I would hope all of my coaches saw that in me, right? But I think when you're when you're playing a sport or when you're taking a leadership role or when you're doing something like a change agent where there might be more arrows aimed at your back, that you realize the most important person to believe in you is yourself. I really appreciated a few weeks ago the actress Nance Betts. She won an award. Did you? I don't know if you
I
have.
did. I love it.
And she stood up there in front of the microphone and she said, I want to thank me for believing in me when no one else did, or paraphrasing, of course. And I thought that was so powerful. And I think it resonated with me so much is because looking back, I did do a lot of believing in me and take a lot of risks and take a lot of chances. And I think when you believe in yourself and you have that self-confidence, not to the point of arrogance, of course, but to the point of self-assuredness, other people will believe in you too. And they will want to collaborate with you and they will want to put you in positions where you get a little bit more autonomy than you might have otherwise. And you get to lead.
I'm so glad you said that, because that is the characteristic of some great leaders across industries, across continents, and not always CEOs, right? Sometimes the person sitting next to you, it could be a peer that is actually leading.
Mm-hmm.
And it, to your point, it's not arrogance. It is just that individual that has the confidence and the capability that is showing that leadership skill, and people gravitate towards it. And sometimes they never get that recognition. And they're not the individual that's sitting on the podcast or is in front of the cameras or is in that news article, but they made a difference in somebody's life.
And I think it's important to know what your values are in that situation that you're describing. The title doesn't automatically make you a leader, it's a title. Your core values, the way you treat people, and the potentially unknown impact that you have on others, that's leadership. More I think than anything else, more than accomplishing things and more than checking boxes or more than the metrics that come out in the quarterly reports or at the end of the year. What you do and how you help people remember you is a lot more of a definition of a leader to me.
So whether it's Amy or Amy through True Nine or your team at True Nine, as you're going in and you're helping these organizations, you're strategizing, you're helping them become comfortable with change.
Mm-hmm.
How are you identifying these individuals that are the change leaders that may not necessarily stand out to everybody within the organization?
Absolutely. And you do need to look throughout the organization for those key employees, those change leaders, those change champions. They might not be the ones that are at the top of the org chart or the bottom of the org chart, depending on how the organization has it set up. I think a few key components that I notice and that I look for is a willingness to try something new and a willingness to fail, a willingness to go into something without all the answers. I really like someone that says, I have no clue what I'm doing here. Absolutely. Let's go. Let's run fast with that. Let's see what kind of creativity will come with the unknown. And lastly, most importantly, is the willingness and the ability to not only say, I might not have done that the best way, or that might not have been the best decision, to not only have that experience reframe the decisions you make going forward, but also to admit those to others. I think people are so nervous about failing that they won't talk about their failures to others. And then you do become a little untouchable. And if you want people to collaborate with you and to follow you kind of into the unknown, they have to connect with you as a person. And they also have to think, this person doesn't have all the answers. They haven't done it 100% right 100% of the time. those are some of the key skills and the key characteristics and traits that I look for as I'm going in and putting together a team.
So as you have, I mean, you've been on a board of directors, you've been in several different roles. You were a COO. Why did you decide to go out and start your own I mean, I can answer this for myself, but I'm always curious why somebody else has done it too.
I've done the C-suite, the COO thing multiple times. I really enjoyed it, but I was looking for a different type of challenge. And I have had a few people ask me a very similar question. I honestly can't pinpoint whether or not I was just at a certain place in my career or my life, or if this is a post-pandemic reaction. But I don't know, and like it doesn't necessarily matter, right? I'm here, and so if I don't know, I just don't know, and that is okay. But I'm really energized and excited about it. And I'm feeling more positive energy from the people I'm talking to on a daily basis, from the work I'm hearing about, the challenges that people are facing, everything that they're looking to have in the future that they might not necessarily have today. I'm feeling like a much broader energy because of it. And so while I might not definitively know why I made the decision, I know I'm in the right place.
Isn't that odd though? So many of us, I feel like it is somehow tied to that 3-year time period because we came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it was wanting change or just being energized from coming out of that funky period or something, so many of us said, this is my time. This is my, I mean, mine was, it's my year of yes. I'm not being pulled down anymore, or I'm going to do my thing. So many of us came out of that time period, that era, that funk, whatever it was, and said, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I agree. And I really enjoyed my time working for and with other people.
Yeah.
I wanted something different. And this was good timing for me. I recently moved, recently relocated and just seemed right. So, like I said, I'm superstitious. And so a lot of arrows were pointing in this direction. I decided to follow them.
I think we just all needed change, like just fresh start of something and say, you know what, let's wipe the slate clean and poof, this is it. And we're moving forward. And I mean, there have been some bad things that have come from change, but there have been so many amazing, great things that have come from this. Mentors and there's was Horner's Corner. I started paying attention to Horner's Corner a year or two ago, and that was very interesting. And I've learned so many things from that, and watching your community build and grow. And there's been some amazing things happening from that as well. So it's just interesting to see how each of us have lifted and supported each other up over the last 2 years.
Yeah. And you touched on, change. We choose change a lot more often than I find we give ourselves credit for. People choose to make a change, and it feels much differently when the change is something you choose. Taking a risk to start a company, figuring out all the software to spin up either a podcast or a blog, learning a new skill, taking on a new certification, going to a networking event, making new connections, maybe getting on stage for the first time ever or for the first time to talk about a new topic or to a new audience. We choose change very often. And so I think that we forget the feeling of when we choose change versus the feeling of when we react to change or we react to something that we feel is out of our control. It feels much different. However, it's still change.
So along those lines though, but if you're choosing to change, you're also choosing not to change. So
Sometimes,
those individuals
as you
who
make a
are
choice.
like it is still a choice. I mean, I've told my kids regularly, and I'm like, if you're in a funk, you choose to get up every morning. You choose to go out of the house, and everything is a choice.
Yes.
And choosing not to do that is also a choice. It's a lack of choosing to get out of the house. Everything is a choice. Like, not getting out of the house is choosing not to change your location.
Mm-hmm.
It's choosing not to change.
Geddy
So
Lee from the band Rush is very proud of your lyrics right now. I think it was Rush that said, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. And
you
it's very
still have made
true.
a choice. Exactly. And it's choosing not to change. And sometimes that is, and that happens in business a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When your business is not thriving, have you chosen not to change?
And I equate that to, if you choose not to change, what you choose to do is something that looks a lot like standing still. And if standing still is comfortable for you, then it's comfortable for you. But as you look to either side, is everyone rushing past you because they have made the choice to change? And that is a good visual of what can happen with innovation. I think Chat GPT is one of the easiest. If we're going to cherry pick an example right now, Chat GPT is one of the easiest. If you choose not to take advantage of GPT in some segment of your business or in your daily operations to lead to efficiencies or just even expand knowledge or bandwidth, you're standing still. And the people who are choosing to embrace it are moving forward. And eventually, if everyone moves forward and you stay where you are, you're left behind. That's the best way I know to explain why you do need to embrace that change and to make a change.
That is a really good point. I recently had a conversation with, I think, a fellow chief, Serena Riley. She is with. She's just recently moved over to Conversite AI, and we were talking about how in the customer experience area, we are having to really embrace and think about different ways to measure success, to track metrics and things along those lines, because everybody in some way, shape, or form is going to have to think about how they're utilizing AI. And even if an individual is using ChatGPT to answer emails or look at something, your organization has now used AI. And how is that impacting your overall strategic vision, view, the client focus? You're using AI. So when you factor that into your overall strategic client focus, the whole vision and how you're handling your clients, how are you utilizing AI? How is that coming into things? So it's interesting to hear you talk about ChatGPT now, being that I recently had that conversation with her. It's it's going to be everywhere. And then how is that impacting other things?
And I think that's a great point, and not to strike fear in the heart of any executive who is listening to this, but you don't have a clue as to what your employees are doing with 100% of their time. Regardless of how regimented or unregimented the tactical part of their roles are, and the checklists and the reviews, you could have three people sitting in a row with the same outcome and the same reports. They're going to get there three different ways. And I love that comment you just relayed to me from her, because yes, you might not have an AI strategy, but if your employees are using it, your organization is benefiting from AI. And instead of doing the standing still, at a minimum a risk perspective, if not an innovation and strategy perspective, someone needs to be aware of that, get their arms around it, put parameters and training around it, so that you're doing it as right can be as this thing changes. You can't even say every day. You have to say every minute, every hour.
It's like every millisecond. Like it's just insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because everybody's inputting data into it, and it's constantly changing. So it's wild. So I do want to talk to you a little bit more about change and strategy, client strategy, but I want to get you a little bit of a chance to let everybody know Amy with this or that. So I know you've watched the show and you know how it works, but for our first time watchers, this or that, we do 2 words or phrases. And from that perspective, we both play. We have to pick. We can't say neither. We can't say both, which is sometimes interesting. So we'll go
Improv. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? Sometimes it's interesting. So we're going to randomly get some words and phrases here, and we'll go from there. All right. Up first, we've got ghost tour or historical walking tour.
Historical walking tour, definitely.
That's where I'm going to go. I'm not into the ghost tours, although I was in New Orleans once, and that kind of seemed like it would have been interesting. But isn't that kind of the same thing as a historical walking tour in New Orleans? I mean,
I feel like one's during the day and one's at night. That might be the largest noticeable difference in New Orleans.
Although, have you been to New Orleans?
I have.
They have the most amazing cemeteries. Like the historical tours through the cemeteries, they're gorgeous.
And you learn a lot of things that if you don't live on the bayou, you didn't know before.
Exactly. So my ex and his family are from Louisiana, and so we used to go there, and it was just amazing. And I would take all these pictures in the cemetery, and he's like, "This isn't your family," and I'm like, "But it's so pretty."
And it's very unique.
This kind of cemeteries in Texas.
No, it's very unique, and it is very interesting,
and it's historical.
Mm-hmm.
So it might, for some people, be ghostly, but for me, it was very historical.
I love it. I have done both a walking tour and a running tour in New Orleans, so I've covered a lot of ground on my own 2 feet in that city.
There you go. I love it. It's just beautiful. All right, next, urban exploration or stargazing in the wilderness.
1,000% urban exploration. I'm a city file. Give me concrete any day over mud.
Okay, so I was gonna go with stargazing, and then it popped up with that in the wilderness. And I was like, okay, I'm all about the stargazing, but in the wilderness is kind of creepy. Like, what's happening out there? Why are we in the wilderness stargazing? Can't we stargaze from, I don't know, a rooftop? Or why do we have to be in the wilderness? Can we be in a field that's open and not worried about a serial killer coming and burying us in the middle of the field
or a bear?
Or a bear. I mean, a wide open field. I get that you can't be in the city on a rooftop. I know. I heard it come out of my mouth as soon as it came out. I'm like, okay, Anne, you can't be in the city on a rooftop, all the lights. I get it. Mm-hmm. But you can be in a field in the middle of nowhere and see all the gorgeous. I mean, I've seen the Milky Way. It's beautiful. Yeah. And all the shooting stars. So I'm going to have to go with the urban exploration because the wilderness and the bears and the no, and bugs.
Yes.
All of the above.
Yes.
All right. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Why? Forest hike or coastal walk?
Coastal walk.
Why?
Much more into the beach. I think the relaxing sound of the ocean, barefoot in the sand,
Same.
sounds more appealing to me.
I love the sound of the ocean.
Yeah.
It's very relaxing. And again, the forest is like, why are most scary movies in the forest?
Or cemeteries, but you like
Or
those.
cemeteries, but no, not all cemeteries, just the New Orleans ones.
Okay, that's a good clarification. Good
It's a good
clarification.
clarification. Like, let's pay attention, Amy. Now, I think I'm gonna have to go with coastal walk too. It's the sounds associated with the coast.
Mhm.
All right, last one. Are you ready?
I am.
Picnic in the park or dinner at a fancy restaurant?
Dinner at a fancy restaurant.
It's the city girl coming out.
It is. It is.
I think
As
there's
soon as you said picnic in the park, all I could think of was ants.
like I want to be romantic. It sounds nice, right? It sounds sweet and romantic and rom-com-ish. It really does, but they don't show those things, like the
Oh,
bugs and the sweat and the flop stuff going on downstairs. I mean, they don't show any of that, not to mention the ants and dirt getting in food and
yeah.
all the effort that goes into it. It's just not fun hiking that stuff into a place and putting the blanket down and making sure dirt doesn't get on the blanket. It's just not all that the movie makes it out to be. So I'm going to go with you to dinner at a fancy restaurant. Then everybody else gets to make sure that everything ends up on the table and no dirt.
Very true. I love it.
So, well, thank you for playing this or that. It seems
Like
like Amy and I are very aligned in a lot of our thought processes there. So, back to talking about strategic change planning with clients.
Mhm.
I would like to understand and help our listeners understand. You said that you help people with change and help people to be comfortable with change.
Mhm.
How do you tackle that?
One of my favorite go tos is the concept of beginning with the end in mind. So, oftentimes, a leadership team or an ownership group will know what their end game is. There's a reference for one of your kids, you said was a Swiftie, right? They will know what their end game is, what the end result is, or at least a future significant milestone that they want to hit. And typically, when I talk to people, they know what that is. They're very unsure of how to get there. And the most important step is defining where you want to be, and then developing a step by step kind of dismantling understanding of what needs to happen to get there. So, if an organization wants to spin up a new business line, a new service line, new product, they define what that is and then work backwards on the steps to put that into play. By doing that, you have an actionable plan with steps and milestones. You know what you need to put in play or in process to get there. And it becomes what was a dream or a concept and now becomes a workable action plan.
So, thinking about some of the clients that you've worked with, what was one of the situations, or can you share a situation without naming anything that you can't name, of a client that was the most prepared and came to you ready to go and helped you help them?
I, well, that's a great question. I think motivation is the most preparedness piece, and that everyone is on the same page and agrees on that motivation. And that might be a pre-step to actually defining that end game for some organizations. Some organizations know, right? Like organizations who are doing things in a little bit more of a manual process that know they need to automate and have a big system changeover. That's more of an operational and a tactical switch versus a strategic switch. But an organization that wants to expand its footprint into a different market, that wants to spin up a new line of business, that wants to diversify its revenue, that wants to completely and totally overhaul its recruiting, retention, and hiring practices. That's more of a strategy. And that requires everyone to be on the same page. So to your question, I think people come in varying degrees of preparedness because it depends on whose big idea the strategic change is. If it comes from the boss, and usually it does, because they'll be the ones who are supporting the initiative financially, everyone else needs to also be on board. And so oftentimes that needs to happen first. If the organization already has mission, vision, and values, that's much easier because whatever the strategic planning initiative is, it will align with that mission, vision, and values. So if those three things are in place and really in place, more than just words on paper, but really part of the culture, those would be the organizations that I would say are the most prepared to come in to a strategic change or to a strategic planning initiative.
You just said something very interesting that I'm not sure. I just want to make sure it's going to resonate with some of our listeners.
Sure.
Companies that have mission, vision, and values.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of companies have them,
Mm-hmm.
but you just said that are not just words on paper.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Well, I think not only that people know what they are, but they're a part of the day to day. A lot of places where you can see them is in execution. If there's a goal setting or an annual review process that has mission, vision, and values, if there's some sort of regular communication around those, and then at the front end, they need to be involved in the hiring process. So if one of the organization's core values is innovation, you should be seeing an incubator group. You should be seeing time built into everyone's day to day responsibilities to innovate and come up with new ideas. You should be seeing cutting edge technology. If when you walk into that organization and those things aren't very obvious, prevalent, celebrated, encouraged, innovation, while it might be written down as a core value, might not be a living core value.
Sounds good, though.
Sounds amazing. Sounds competitive.
So, when you run into this situation where a company has these amazing, competitive sounding, it absolutely is, it sounds great on paper,
Yeah.
mission, vision, and values, but you see, they're not really ingrained within the day to day culture. What do you and your team, how do you address that? I mean, how do you tackle that?
Yeah. Uh, Depending on how deep it is, survey, anonymous survey. If it really is, if what is written on paper is very much in conflict with the culture of the organization or what does happen or what is supported in the day to day, a listening tour. So, qualitative interview process to go through and ask, how if we're going to stick with innovation, because that was the one I started with, how are you encouraged to innovate on a daily basis? When was the last time you brought a new idea to the table? Do you feel supported and encouraged if you suggest a different way of doing things? There are questions like that you can go through. And if you talk to enough people at enough levels, you will get a sense as to where the company really lives from an innovation as a core value perspective.
So what is your advice to an individual that they're working at a company, they're watching right now, they're not the boss, but they know they need change?
Mm-hmm.
And how do they approach the leadership of the organization to say, we need change, this is what we need? How do they approach this? What do they need to do? So on and so forth. So I'm going to give you the floor to talk to this individual to give them advice on how to approach it and what they need to do.
Yeah, value proposition. The first way that you're going to get the attention of your manager or someone who's even your manager's manager or someone higher in the organization, and visuals. So stick with the double V, right? Value prop and visuals. Though I think a slide deck or even a visioning board or something that you can put together that shows here is what, let's say it's a problem. You may need to choose a different word, but here is the problem. Here is the impact of it, right? Either extra days in the process, extra dollars, extra person. Here is the solution. Here's potentially how long the solution will take to get implemented. And here is the new outcome. And be prepared to answer a lot of questions. So you really have to do your research. Make sure you're coming at it almost like a consultant presenting a new solution. What you don't want to do is whine, throw anybody under the bus, or criticize anyone's decisions. There is no faster way to end a conversation about innovation than to approach it that way. I think also be prepared that the answer might be no, but don't let it defeat you. If the answer is no, make sure you have a good understanding of why. It's probably not anything personal about you, your idea, your capabilities. It's more than likely just the timing or the comfort level of whomever needs to sign off on that. And if the answer is no, I think not only understanding why, but saying, would there be a better time in the future to revisit this?
Love that. So why would somebody want to get in touch with you, and how would they get in touch with you?
Well, why? I have a lot of amusing stories about change and how I have learned through change, and even how I've fallen back into old habits, even though I've known better. None of us are immune to that. Like we said earlier, none of us are perfect, but I think making sure that we learn and grow from our experiences and go forward. I also really enjoy collaborating with others. I think regardless of what side of the mentor-mentee relationship you're on, you can learn so much from another person because we all have different viewpoints and different questions that we ask and different ways of absorbing what's going on around us. So that would be the why. The how is either through LinkedIn. So I am /Amy Horner, AMYHORNER. It looks like it will be in the scroll, as well as my website, which is true-9.com. Also in the scroll.
All of that will be down here and in the comments section.
I love it.
Feel free to just go there and click on those. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to get in contact with Amy and her team.
Very much appreciated.
Amy, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
the
you.
show. Finally, we were able to make it work. Yeah.
Such anticipation. I hope it's been everything that it needed to live up to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for everybody that joined us today, thank you for joining us. And we will see you again next time. As we wrap up the episode, we would like to take this time to thank you for joining us this week on Unexpected Journey. Our guest information will be linked in the episode description, along with a link to our host website, annbibb.com, and our sponsors' websites, remoteevolution.com, ethossupport.com, and yourcohort.co. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on your favorite podcast app and on our YouTube channel so that you never miss an episode and we can continue to bring them to you. Let us know your thoughts on what we discussed in the comment section. And once again, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again next time on Unexpected Journey.